We have hosts that are earning $5,000 an hour for time spent because you're just getting a direct deposit in your bank account every month doing basically nothing. Each transaction on Airbnb, it's one time. Each ride you do on Uber, it's one time. You don't know how much you're going to earn next month. Whereas Neighbor, it's really predictable. They start with one space and then they get addicted to that passive income. And before you know it, they're earning $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year on the platform.
I'm super excited to talk about Neighbor. I want to know how you started and how you guys got to where you are and have you explain where you guys are as a company. But let's start with your origin story. Give me a couple minutes on how Neighbor came to be, and then let's just dive right in. I've got a million questions for you.
It's a fun story. I'll say was never planning on starting a company, just happened. I was at school here in Utah where we're based, and a friend of mine approached me. This was our senior year in school. We were about to graduate. We had both lined up full-time jobs. And he had had this experience over the prior summer where he and his wife had just gotten married. About a week after they got married, they moved down to this humanitarian org in South America, needed storage, tried to find it, couldn't find it. And so he ended up calling around to some friends and storing in a friend's garage. Fast forward 4 months later, he gets back from South America, goes to pick his items up, and just has this moment where he's like, this is such a better experience. I felt so much more peace of mind knowing my items were in a nice, clean garage in a neighborhood I trusted. I saved a ton of money. It was closer to where I needed it. And he just had the thought, why doesn't everyone do this? There's got to be empty space in every neighborhood in the country. Why are we building all of this space to store our items in when it already exists? What if someone created an app or a marketplace where you could look up what's available in your neighborhood? So we started working on Neighbor our senior year, just really as a side project. And about a month before we graduated, we both called up our jobs and told them we were going to show up and went full time on it. And rest is history.
Wow. Okay. And you said, was that about 8 years ago?
Yeah, about 8 years ago.
Wow. All right. Very cool. Okay. So you call up your respective employers to be and saying you're not coming, we're going all in on this startup. So guide me through the first few months of this. Like, was there a lot of startup costs involved? How did you guys get your first client? What did that all look like?
Yeah, when we first started it, there was no money, no investor money, no money coming into the business. We were knocking doors, right? Asking people if they wanted to list their garage or their driveway on our platform and really paying for the little advertising costs we did in software development with our Pell Grants from college. That's
Wow.
the money we had. Fortunately, about 6 months after we started and started getting traction, and turns out a lot of people really wanted this, resonated way faster than we thought it would. And we raised some venture capital about 6 months after we started.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to go down that rabbit hole. Raising venture, what was that like? Did you guys have a knowledge base of how to do that? Was it friends and family? It was venture, so it was probably a little bit higher than that. How'd you do that?
Yeah, I had a little bit of exposure. I'd worked for a private equity firm while I was in school, but really no exposure to the venture capital industry other than that adjacency. We pitched at a lot of competitions. We were students at the time, so we were able to pitch at some of the university competitions. We won probably 20 or 30 grand from those competitions. It gave us a little bit of capital to start it up as well. Um, but we got noticed. So there were several large venture capital firms that were attending those that reached out to us afterwards and said, hey, we like your business. Why don't you come pitch us? And it's always great when the investor's asking you to come in
Yeah,
versus
that's a good start.
you saying, hey, can we come pitch you? So that was really helpful. And they just got the concept, right? We found the right partners. We ended up the largest venture firm in Utah, a group called Pelion Ventures, ended up leading our seed round. It's about a $2.5 million seed round. And since then, we've gone on to raise about $75 million.
Wow. Okay. All right, that's huge. All right, so you start getting into venture, you raised $2 million. What was the first move after you raised money? Was it build your dev team? Was it like building out the app? Was it client acquisition? What was the next step?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we had gotten this done in the first 6 months with basically duct tape and baling wire. We had this little WordPress website where you could sign up to be a host or a renter. We were running all the payments through Venmo. We got our Venmo account shut down because,
No.
Venmo didn't like the volume. And so the first order of business was build out a formal software engineering team and really build a robust product where all the payments could be processed through that, where you could really easily find what you're looking for, evaluate it based on the features it had. And we spent the first year and a half of the business just keeping it local. We kept it in Utah where we were located. We really got to know every single customer and made sure it was a really delightful customer experience and that we had all the kinks worked out. And we didn't start expanding until about a year and a half into the business.
Wow. Okay. So, what did the expansion look like? Lead me through that from your physical expansion, like heading into other states and other cities or other regions, but also on the team side. How did your team growth go with that, especially for a company like yours using a heavy application that everything relies on the dev?
Sure, yeah. So we took a very hands on approach to expansion. You always have that worry as an entrepreneur in your head of, hey, this is working great where I'm at, but what if people in another market, it just doesn't resonate with them? So we picked Los Angeles as our first expansion market. We actually had people in Los Angeles working to expand that market, and it went extremely well. Like we were blown away by the response. I think we got more hosts in Los Angeles in the first 7 weeks that when we'd gotten in the first year and a half in Utah. So
Wow.
just received extremely well. We spent the next year launching in, I think, 5 markets using a very similar kind of drop in, work locally, do events in the market. And after launching about 5 markets, that's when we raised our next round of funding, Series A round from a group called Andreessen Horowitz. We raised about $10 million from them.
Wow. Okay. So when you're raising all this capital, what does that get allotted to? Is that to cover, like, I guess, help me understand how many developers did you need and do you need? Like, do you currently have? And what does your team look like now in terms of maintaining what's happening, but also growing your business?
Yeah, so in the early days, marketplaces are unique businesses. In a normal business, every dollar you earn in revenue is the company's dollar, right? So if I sell, I don't know, water bottles, I sell a water bottle, you pay me for the water bottle, and I get 100% of that revenue. My costs are, of course, producing that water bottle. In a marketplace, though, you have to pay those costs to acquire the supply, to attract people that are willing to list on your platform. You also have to pay the cost to acquire your customer, just like a normal business. So you've already got the two costs. And then on top of that, because you're passing on most of the revenue to your hosts, you're just getting this little bitty take rate of that transaction as a marketplace. And so if you look at big marketplaces like Airbnb and DoorDash and Uber, they take a decent amount of startup capital to scale, where you're supporting the business until you get to a large enough scale to where that tiny piece is spread across so many transactions that the business can support and sustain itself. In addition to that, there's some things you want to do to create a very safe, a delightful experience for a marketplace early on where the costs don't rise over time, but they're significant upfront. For example, when we first started, we provided free of charge to every single renter on the platform $25,000 in coverage for every item they stored with us. And that was unprecedented. It did not exist in the industry, but we did that to help people feel comfortable with this marketplace relationship. And that's a cost for us up front that eventually blends out as the volume scales, but you have these costs associated with setting up a marketplace.
Wow. Okay. So
Maybe
when you were
maybe I'd
first,
mention one more thing there, and that is you have this chicken and egg problem in a marketplace where um, if I get some hosts on the east side of LA and then I get some renters on the west side of LA, they don't do anything for each other, right? And you don't have enough renters to fill your hosts in time to make them satisfied and earn them money. And you don't have enough hosts to give your renters all the options that they want to create the right price points and space types. And so you're really supporting the marketplace in those early days in just getting it to enough volume to where it starts to work really well for both sides, to where there's tons of renters for your host. They're getting booked quickly, and there's tons of hosts for your renters. So they have tons of options. And that's a startup cost as well that is a difficulty at first, but becomes your biggest value add as you grow and scale. Now we're the best place to find storage because you have every option under the sun on our platform, from traditional storage facilities to a garage in your neighborhood to a business right next to where you work. You've got everything at every price point on our marketplace now.
Yeah. So, like, even just a regular privately owned storage facility, they could list their open units on your platform just in an attempt to fill out their vacancies, right?
That's right. And it's a wonderful
Wow.
customer experience because now, as a customer, you don't have to go all over the internet comparing your options. You can use our search tool to compare every option. If you want to save money, you can find the budget option. If you want all the bells and whistles and massive gates and stuff like that, you can find that option. And you can narrow it down to a 2 mile radius around your home and just see, okay, what's available. And we've got it all.
Wow. You're like the kayak of storage here, just because you can pick from your Marriott and your Hilton storage, or you can pick from your Bob or neighbor Jim's garage. It's everything.
Yeah, I'd say it's almost like the best of booking.com and airbnb.com combined. You know, they
Yeah.
kind of went after different categories, and we invite them both. We try to be the true holistic marketplace. I'd say it's really unparalleled. I don't know of another marketplace that encapsulates so much as what Neighbors tried to do in their approach.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, how did you decide, especially when you were starting out, how did you decide on pricing, or what's the number or the percentage of the cut that Neighbor takes from the transaction? How did you land on that? Or was there multiple iterations?
Yeah, so first of all, especially in the early days, we really relied on our users for price. And what we would do is we'd say, and we actually still do this today, you as the user, you can select any price that you want to list your space at, and we will list it at that price, and you will get that amount, and we just take a 5% processing fee. It's actually 4.9% processing fee out of that amount. So if you think you can rent it out for $1 million a month, you can go ahead and try. But now that we're large, we actually have the best pricing data in the country because we've got all these data points in every city, and we've watched people price high and low and in the middle, and we've watched in real time and can use machine learning to say, okay, this is what's 90% likelihood to be reserved. And so over time, we started giving more pricing guidance and saying, you as a host, you can decide what you'd like to price at, but here's what you should price at to be successful and to earn the most money. And then in recent years, we've taken that a step further. Several years ago, we rolled out smart pricing tools, which is what the vast majority of our hosts use today, where they actually just click that on and then we run your price for you. And we'll adjust that up or down as you get reservations to maximize your earnings as a host and to keep you rented as frequently as possible. So that's how we do pricing.
Wow. Okay. And the recurring model is that most of these rentals are monthly, or is there like contracts involved? But basically, you're taking that 5% of that monthly payment each month from thousands upon thousands of renters and hosts, or hosts, I should say.
That's right. And that's one of the cool things about our marketplace is it is recurring. Each transaction on Airbnb, it's one time. Each ride you do on Uber, it's one time. You don't know how much you're going to earn next month. It can vary from month to month. Whereas Neighbor, it's really predictable. These reservations last 6 months, 12 months, 20 months. Some of them, we have transactions that started in 2018 that are still ongoing today. That rental
Wow.
hasn't lapsed. And so it can be this really predictable passive income. And I'd say we're also unlike any marketplace in how passive it is. Like, if you want to earn money on DoorDash or Instacart or Uber, that's a job. You're driving around, you're trading your time for money. Even Airbnb, you have to have a decent amount of startup cost. There's a high barrier there where you have to be able to invest and afford a new property. And then every 2 days, a renter's moving out. And so high operational costs where you got to clean up after them, A lot of people end up hiring management companies. We not like almost none of our users use management companies because we get you that renter and you do nothing every month. We have hosts that for the time they spend in the app are earning like $5,000 an hour for time spent because you're just getting a direct deposit in your bank account every month doing basically nothing.
That's incredible. Okay, so that's I want to start talking about the host side of this as an income stream, or diversifying your income. So this could be as simple as, so I'm based in Cincinnati, Ohio. Use that as an example. So in Ohio, if I have a storage shed, let's say it's, I don't know, a 10 by 10 storage shed, and I'm just like, I don't use this thing. I got plenty of space, or the kids moved out and all the toys are gone. I could hop on Neighbor. I say, hey, I've got a 10 by 10 space. You probably need images and descriptions of it. And then I could rent it out. Let's say I want to rent that space for $200 a month. Is it that easy?
It's that easy. And we have different host types. You can choose your level of involvement. So if you're a residential user like you described, where you're renting out your RV pad or your garage or your shed, most of those users, they're going to earn somewhere between $2,000 to $3,000 in passive income every year. Some decent amount more than that, some less than that. But it's gonna, I rent out my RV pad, pays my utilities every month. It's phenomenal, and I don't have to do anything. Then you get these other users. Maybe they already own a little bit more space. Maybe they own a large plot of land next to their home, and we call them power users because they start with one space and then they get addicted to that passive income. And before you know it, they're earning 30, 40, $50,000 a year on the platform. And then you get users that take it a step further and they may start investing in space and expanding their portfolio. And all of a sudden they're earning $100,000, $150,000 a year on our platform. And again, unlike Airbnb, it's just so much less overhead. One example I like to use, I'll just use our home market of Utah. This applies anywhere. If you had $500,000 to invest, um, you could buy roughly a townhome in Utah. That's about what that would buy you. And you can maybe earn, if you were a rental property investor, I'm sure you've had rental property experts on your podcast before. So
Mm-hmm.
you're earning $2,000 a month, maybe $2,500 a month in rents in Utah on that townhome. And net, maybe your expenses are 2,000, so you're earning like $300 or $500 in net. So on an annual basis, that's like something like $25,000 a year. But let's say you were to rent it out as a short-term rental instead for Airbnb. Maybe you'd earn $35,000 a year, 40,000 if it's like very successful. Well, with that same $500,000, you could buy an empty lot, maybe an acre to 2 acres in Utah, and you could rent that for roughly $100,000 a year. So we'll start working with these investors that own a bunch of rental properties, and they'll just list like an RV pad or a shed at each rental property, and it earns them $300 a month, which, remember, the net they were earning before was about 300. So they're doubling their net on each rental property. But then they realize, wait, this is just a better investment, and they stop buying new rental properties and they start just investing in neighbor properties.
Wow. I could see this to be where you could start investing in industrial or commercial areas where there's buildings for sale. Maybe they're like 40 by 40 pole barns, right? With 2 garage bays. You could invest in those. They aren't very expensive, and turn that into your own little storage unit, list it on Neighbor. And it sounds like things don't sit vacant for very long, depending on where you are. So I guess let's talk about the uptake time. So if I'm a host on the platform and I'm in a relatively populated area, is the demand? I mean, it seems like demand for storage is through the roof. Is that accurate?
Yeah, let me give you some fun stats on storage. Because I'll just answer that question straight up. We get millions of renters to our website every single year that we don't service, that we just simply don't have like the supply in that area to service them. And so there is so much demand. We have now built in the United States, not Neighbor, just storage companies have built more storage facilities in the US than we've built McDonald's, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, Wendy's, Burger King's, Walmart's, Home Depot's, and Costco's combined. That's how much storage we've built. and it is 95% occupied. It's like the highest occupancy rate of any real estate asset class. And so the industry is spending about $5 billion a year just on new construction every single year. And they're trying to drive that occupancy rate down to 85% because they're really leaving the money on the table. If you're 95% occupied nationwide, that means like half of all storage facilities are totally full. They should be building more. And they're trying to do that. And guess what? All $5 billion worth of new storage every year gets leased every year, and the occupancy rate just stays the same.
Wow, that's it. So as some, I've never used a storage unit, but even out here in Ohio, they're just popping up on every corner. Like you're going down I-75, there's storage units popping up everywhere. So it's insane. The demand is just insane.
Yeah, 1 in 9 Americans, one out of every single American households is currently in a storage lease, like has a storage lease. And that's not even, a lot of people don't have a storage lease that are trying to get a storage lease.
Wow. Okay, that's wild. Well, now I'm curious, how many like just privately owned storage rental companies or franchises, is this like a basic thing that they do is get signed up on Neighbor just for the heck of it so that they limit their vacancy?
Yeah, increasingly, we work with all the largest storage companies in the world. So the largest storage owner in the world is a partner of ours. They list every single location that they have nationwide. You can find it on our platform. And we love working with them because there's a lot of users like they just want that trusted brand, right? Like they're just used to that. They see the orange signs or the green signs that they're used to seeing at those storage facilities and they want to go there. And again, it's just so great for the renter where they can see, oh, wait, I could store my boat 2 doors down and have like constant access to that and probably save a little money. Or I could go to the storage facility 2 miles away and I can compare them right on Neighbor's site and find the right option for me.
Wow. All right. So, how do people find Neighbor? Obviously, there's word of mouth, but do you guys do a ton of marketing to get the word out to so that there's more and more demand and that you attract more and more hosts? How do you guys get the word out?
Yeah, it's a balance of both. So we've got phenomenal marketing team that makes sure our hosts are getting the renters that they need and also running campaigns and especially testimonials. Like rather than make marketing campaigns, we really like to rely on our customers to tell the story. And a lot of times that's a customer just telling their neighbor organically and saying, we have a little feature on their app where they can show their earnings to their friends and be like, dude, I earned $75,000 last year off my plot of land. You should totally do this. So there's that word of mouth, but then we'll also take that and amplify it. So we'll take their stories, we'll film them, and then we'll run ads just showcasing our users and what they're doing. We had a fun conversation with a guy in Colorado. That's the reason that number pops into my mind. This guy in Colorado, he's got about an acre of land. He's earning $75,000 a year. There's a guy down the street from me. He's like 2 miles away, just on the other side of town, has a plot of land earning $50,000 a year through Neighbor. We just did an interview with a guy in Florida, a guy named Mike, where on his property, he's actually running an Airbnb. He's also running on a site called Hip Camp, if you've ever heard of that. It lets you rent out for like camping. And then he's running Neighbor. And we just did an interview with him. And the interview was so fun because he was like, I do all the marketplaces, I do all of them. And nothing is as easy as Neighbor. Like, this is the one I don't have to think about. It's my passive income. All the rest of the marketplaces, they're my active income.
Wow, that's so cool. All right, so tell me about how you guys built out your app so that it is so customer centric and such a positive customer experience. What was that like? I guess even from the beginning to where it is today, how do you guys ensure that your app is the best one that the customers could possibly be using?
Well, a lot of customer feedback. We try to make it easy for customers to submit exactly what they want. Right now, we're actually working on a feature that was very much user submitted, where we have some power users that they're like, I have neighbors that have space. Could you build something to where I could go to my neighbor and say, hey, can I rent out your space? I'll do all the work for you. You'll get most of the income. Just give me a cut and I'll manage it for you. So they want like, almost like a co hosting feature like you see on an
Huh.
Airbnb or Turo or other websites. So that's a great example of a user coming to us, expressing a need, a want that aligns with us as well. We'd love for these users that are so successful to be able to help generate their neighbor's income. That's even more passive, where their neighbor literally doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Um, and speaking to that word of mouth, how much better to grow your business than a person who's already using you and loving you, going to all their neighbors and actually proactively signing up their spaces. So we're working on a feature like that right now. We heard the renters tell us how they want more customizable protection. So we rolled out these nationwide property protection plans where when you're signing up, you can um, add a $5,000 plan to your items, or a $20,000 or a $50,000 plan. We're the only storage company in the country that offers up to $50,000 in protection for the items that you're storing with us. So just user feedback. What do you want? How can we make your I'm an entrepreneur, but my business is creating entrepreneurs. That's ultimately what Neighbor does, is creates entrepreneurs. So like I just want to help empower those entrepreneurs, and how can our software engineers, we're a tech company. We actually don't offer storage. We're not a storage company. We're about empowering storage companies and creating new little storage entrepreneurs and parking entrepreneurs. And so we're the software for you. We will build it for you.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, what are the best places, or maybe what does your data say are the best places for storage? If you're if you're listing from a rural area right now, are there
Yeah.
still opportunities to list on Neighbor and still have renters that come to you, or is it you need to be more urban or suburban? What does your data tell you lends you the best opportunities being on Neighbor?
Yeah. That's a phenomenal question. The first thing I'll say is absolutely there's an opportunity if you're in a rural area. In many cases, we have users that have space in a city with 2,000 people and they're renting that out. We have hosts in towns with 1,000, 2,000 people earning money on our platform. A lot of times it's not worth it for those big storage companies to come in and build storage in a town that small. And so you can be the kind of resident storage provider in that town. Of these power users that I've talked about, these individuals earning $30,000 to $100,000 a year, they actually exist not in the town center, but in suburban fringes of the town where you can find a little more land. Maybe they're renting to a bunch of people are storing RVs or boats. Whereas if you have a parking lot that you own or a garage that you own downtown, that's going to be used for someone to do monthly parking or something like that. So yeah, and we actually have a really cool tool that we call Blueprint that we built, that you can type in an address anywhere in the country and it will pull up a satellite view of that address, and you can design your space. So you can say, oh, I want 5 spots here and 10 spots here, and it's to scale. So it will put them exactly, and you can turn them diagonally or however you want. And it uses our pricing data and our demand data to tell you how much you'll earn off of that space. So before you've even listed it, you can just design it out and plan it out, and we'll just let you know. And there's areas where it's in high demand, and down like anywhere in the Seattle area, like we just can't get enough supply there. Like, it just flies off the shelf. And you'll see that if you go to our calculator. I don't know of a market where we don't need supply, but there are certain areas that are hotter than others.
Wow. Okay. Are there regulatory or things with being able to be a host? Are there things that the host need to consider through their city or town or state? Anything regulatory that might get in the way of this or hinder it?
Yeah, and that's a common question we get, because if you've ever used Uber or Airbnb, there are a lot of regulatory issues with those platforms. Airbnb has to deal with like room and board tax. Uber has to deal with all sorts of transportation stuff. We like to say Airbnb is in the business of storing people, and Uber's in the business of transporting people. And anytime where a human and their safety is involved, you have a lot of regulation. Storage, parking, much less regulation. It is so much less regulated and so much more user friendly for you as someone who wants passive income. Um, there's really two things that apply to storage and parking. The first is every single state in the country has a process that's required for how do you get rid of items if a user stops paying? What happens if a user stops paying? And that's a very strong reason. You could do this yourself. You could go to your neighbor and say, hey, store your RV, Venmo me every month. A big reason people use Neighbor is because we've done the legal legwork to be compliant in all 50 states. So if a renter stops paying us, we actually have a host guarantee where we'll keep paying you your money even though we're not getting paid. We will run the formal process to get those items out. Typically, we can have those items out somewhere between 30 to 60 days. We'll do that all for you and do all the legal compliance for you. You won't have to lift a finger. And then the other one is you want to check with local zoning. Again, it's much less stringent than like an Airbnb. A lot of cities, the thesis is that Airbnb takes away housing from residents and drives up the cost of housing. But Neighbor's not storing people, right? So we're not taking away housing. We're just using space that is literally sitting empty that no one's using. And so municipalities, they don't tend to have any sort of issues with Neighbor. It just helps their citizens earn passive income. But there are certain localities, they'll say you can only have X number of vehicles on a property, and you'll want to make sure to check with that, make sure your property is compliant.
Okay, very cool. And you had mentioned that one of the really cool features for your renters is you guys offer protection for their items up to $50,000. Is that like an add-on when they're going to rent a location? It's like, hey, would you like to protect your items up to $25,000 or $50,000? And they say yes. Is that just an additional charge that goes directly to Neighbor? With probably,
Yeah, that
I presume, a markup, a little bit of a markup on it, so you guys make a couple bucks.
That's exactly right. Yeah, so we've stood up a whole custom program that it really just lets you customize it. If you don't want it at all, you can save that cost, right? If you want to add it and have that peace of mind, you can add that cost. And it also is phenomenal for these hosts because as a host, you're running a business, and a business comes with a number of things. You want to know uh, following all the local laws and regulations. You want to know that your income, your payments are collected. You want to know that you have the tools to be able to manage your customers. And we provide all of that just as part of our service. We provide your CRM. We've built it, and essentially it's a free service to you. We provide the payment processing. We provide the regulatory compliance in terms of ever having to evict the user. And in addition, having these property protection plans helps protect your liability. That's another concern for any business owner out there. We offer a $1 million guarantee to all of our hosts for business liability. So if there were ever to be some sort of dispute or something like that, maybe someone slips and falls on your property. Normally, as a business, you'd get some sort of general liability policy, but we have a $1 million guarantee that helps protect you. And then by providing this property protection to the renters, if they waive that coverage, then they're responsible for those items, right? You, as the host, you're not responsible if something were to happen. Um, of course, you're still responsible for yourself. You have to treat those items well. Um, and if they select one of those plans and something happens, maybe a pipe bursts in your home and the items get water damaged or something, then we're stepping in and covering that if
Wow.
they've
Okay.
added
So
one of those plans. Yeah.
yeah, kind of feels like a no-brainer. Do you help like first-time hosts understand what it is that they can rent for? Do you assess the space that they have and say, "Hey, your building could hold 2 boats or plus 4 closets if you were to wall off half of it"? Is that kind of up to the host, or is there any sort of, maybe that's a self-study course? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So we provide a lot of tools as you're signing up to where you can list different spaces and we help you spec them out. And we ask you a lot of questions. Does it have this? Does it have that? What are the dimensions of the space? We're always encouraging users to break it up into smaller spaces. You just earn more money that way rather than rent out some massive space. Break it up into individual spaces, maximize your earnings.
Yeah. So if you were going to go look at this as an investment opportunity, say you go out on the outskirts of a relatively populous town, it would behoove you to buy a piece of property and build, I don't know, maybe a 40 by 50-foot storage unit or building, but put in, if there's room for 10 units as opposed to 3 bays or something like that, right? Like break it up as small as you can. Or is there more money in renting a much larger space for much larger items?
No, that's right. It's good to break it up. And you mentioned making some capital investment in your property. What a lot of people will do if they invest in a property is we'll just take the property as is to begin. Let's just take the lot, let's fill it up with some vehicle storage for you. That way you're starting to earn money. And then what that user will do is they'll take that cash rather than outlaying their own capital expenditures. They'll take that cash that's now coming in from neighbor and they'll use that to reinvest in the property. Maybe they'll put up, they have these off the shelf storage containers or large sheds that you can buy. They're quite cheap. You're going to pay it off really quickly. Plus, you can depreciate it. And so they'll start to use their neighbor earnings to invest in their neighbor property to grow their neighbor earnings on these higher margin spaces.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, the investment opportunity here seems endless.
Yeah,
Really.
it really is. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, what does your company look like today? Like, how large is your team? What all departments do you guys house? And what's the outlook look like for Neighbor as you guys continue to grow?
Yeah, so our team's fully based here in Utah. We're a centralized team in the office, which I think is more rare these days, but we just like being tight knit. We're very mission driven and care a lot about providing a great experience for our users. You asked about what does it look like? Um, we have a product and engineering function that's just building for our users all day long. That's who we are at our core, is providing great software. We have a marketing organization that markets to both hosts and renters and really fills out the platform. We have a sales organization that works with these large partners, large businesses that want to list a lot of space. We work with 10, 20, $30 billion REITs that own hundreds of multifamily properties across the country, and we're earning them millions of dollars. Or large retail REITs. Some of the largest retail REITs in the world are listed on our platform, and we'll take their parking lot or that retail pad in the back that no, they can't get a tenant in. We'll rent it out for storage or parking. So that's who our sales team works with, in addition to our large storage partners. And we have a $30 billion and a $50 billion storage company listed on our platform. And so that business, really sales and business development partnership team works with those people. We have a large customer support team and trust and safety that's working with our users. They can call us, email us, ask any questions. And finally, we have, even separate from our customer support team, we have a large, what we call it, a user activation team that's just there to help people during the setup phase. When you're looking for a space, you can call in, and our team will actually, you can find it on the product if you want and just self-serve, but you can actually call us and we'll say, hey, here's your needs. We'll ask a couple questions. We'll find the exact right space for you, where you want it. We'll help book it over the phone for you. Um, Hosts, if they have questions during setup, you can get on the phone, and a person can help you build out your space and make sure you meet our quality. We have a pretty high quality bar for listing a space on the platform. And they can guide you through that process, help you take the right photos, and make sure they're the right ones to pass our manual inspection. So that's what the team looks like.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. So, what does the future look like for Neighbor? What does growth look like? Is it just continue growing on the same trajectory? Or are there different things that you're investigating that could maybe be some sort of new addition to Neighbor? What does that look like for you?
Well, storage is such a big market. It's about 10 times the size of taxi and limo market that Uber and Lyft disrupted. And so
Wow.
it's like almost endless market share growth. We're constantly trying to grow market share. There's also international opportunities on the horizon over the next few years. Europe's the second largest storage market. Asia Pacific is actually the fastest growing storage market. Um, so there's areas that we can expand into that way. We've even looked into providing more services to our hosts. They email us all the time, interesting use cases for their space that aren't that monthly storage or that monthly parking. and they want to do interesting other things with their space. And so just continue to expand the ways that our hosts can generate passive income off of space that they already own or space that they've invested in. There's a ton of possibilities there.
Awesome. This is so cool. This whole conversation in the back of my head, I'm trying to think of ways where I could utilize Neighbor or make an investment in a piece of land and put a barn on it or something. There's got to be a way
Sure.
to hop on here and start earning. It sounds like such a great way for someone to get into entrepreneurship, especially because there's a million and one ways to get into entrepreneurship. But a lot of times, especially a lot of our listeners, we want to have a way to get into entrepreneurship that doesn't have a high overhead. It doesn't have a massive capital investment to start. And this could easily be done with things that you might already own, like a storage shed or a garage, a piece of your garage, right? So this sounds like such a great solution for that. Joseph, I could keep talking about this all day. This is such a cool concept. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to make sure that anybody who's listening today, if they want to check out Neighbor, how do they do that? Or if they want to follow Neighbor on socials or follow you, what is that all? How can everybody do that?
Yeah. So if you want to list a space on our platform, we've tried to make it as easy as possible. Our website is just neighbor.com. You can go to neighbor.com/host, and it'll give you all the information you need about how to list your property. That's what we call our individuals that rent out their property as hosts. So it's just neighbor.com/host. Yeah, you can follow us on all the social media channels. I'm on LinkedIn, Joseph Woodbury, and reach out to us. Like I said, we're not that company that is difficult to get a hold of. You can email us straight from our website. You can call our user activation team that we have if you have questions about how to list your space, if you have questions about what storage space is right for you. We're not that company that's just internet only. We love software. We love building technology. You can go to our app store or the Google Play Store, just type in Neighbor or whatever storage, and we should be like the first app that comes up. Just try to make it as easy as possible.
Awesome. Well, Joseph, thank you so much for your time and knowledge, stopping by and sharing it all with us today. This has been a blast, and I wish you and Neighbor nothing but the best in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. And the podcast is love what you guys are doing, and definitely aligns with our mission, right? Creating entrepreneurs, and love what Millionaire University does.
That's right, man. Spot on. Thanks again.